Hey everybody, Corey Miller here with Zach Parnes, KSDK Sports. It's that time of year. You've seen this quite a bit probably since Sunday. We're going to fill out our picks in the NCAA Tournament. I'm going to start off right at the top.
Sure.
I do not endorse that you use these to pick anything. If so, I would have been winning my bracket pool for years and years, and that's not the case. Zach, your thoughts off the top.
Hey, I got to say, sometimes you even have a dog that can have better selections than you if he's eating out of two bowls. So, yeah, what Corey said, 100% accurate. That being said, folks, we're going to give you the best slice of college basketball knowledge that we possibly can ahead of the round of 64 that starts tomorrow.
Hey, these are so much fun. I love doing these. Let's get into it, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to be the blue over here, and we're going to start up in the West. We're going to go region by region. Let's start with the West. And we got 1 Arizona, 16 Long Island. Long Island, really cool story, but, you know, Arizona was one of the best teams all year.
Naturally.
Villanova, Utah State, 8-9, toss-up. I like Utah State.
Okay.
I like the Aggies.
Excellent.
They can shoot a little bit, I
Sure.
think. Next game is very interesting.
That it is.
Wisconsin and High Point. There's always a 12 over a 5, isn't there? There always is.
Yes.
I like this one because High Point's got a couple of St. Louis kids on their team. Rob Martin from CBC, Cameron Fletcher from Vashon.
Nice.
But I got to go Wisconsin.
Pulled it out at the last minute there.
The couple that I've looked at so far have been pretty chalky. We'll see if that changes here when I'm on the bright lights. But we got Arkansas over Hawaii. Arkansas, very hot.
Yes.
Texas. Big win over Scott Connell's NC State Wolfpack last. Sorry, Scott.
Big time. And that was a grind victory, by the way, for Texas.
Texas, decent team, SEC, but I like BYU. They got some young talent there.
Certainly.
Gonzaga, first round.
Okay.
Now we get to the one we're probably going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about a couple a lot. Miami and Missouri. Listen, it's a home game for Mizzou. It's in St. Louis.
Yes.
They have not looked great coming into the tournament. That's unquestionable. They haven't. They haven't looked like you want them to look. But it's got to happen, right? I mean, everything just worked out great for them to get this draw, to get a Miami team who is pretty good. Let me exit out of that right there. Miami team is pretty good, but not quite people picking them to make a deep run. No. So you feel like there's some potential there. So I got to do it.
There we go. His own Mizzou Tigers. That might be local bias, folks, or it may be the pick of the tournament.
Listen, Mark Mitchell is going to will this team to a first-round victory. If he has to. He's going to put the team on his back, but they're going to face Purdue in the second round.
All right.
The Boilermakers, the Big Ten champs.
Nice.
Well, do we want to go you in the first round?
Yeah,
or do you want me to finish off the West?
No, go. You do what you feel comfortable here with.
I'll finish off the West.
That's what we're going with.
I love Missouri. I love my Tigers. But in the second round against a Purdue team that Matt Painter has them there every year, they're always one of the best. They don't have, I don't think, a dominant – they got some better guard play than they usually – they usually have one really big guy who's really good. They got some good guards this year. I don't think Mizzou takes down the Big Ten champs. I wish they did, but I don't think they will. This is an interesting, West Coast matchup.
BYU Gonzaga.
Let's go with BYU.
All right. AJ DeBonsa.
The Zags are not the Zags as they have been, I don't think, quite this year.
Sure.
Let's go Arkansas there over Wisconsin. Really hot Arkansas team.
Good pick.
Arizona. This is a great game. I really hope we get this game.
Yeah.
Gonna go Arizona.
That is Arizona and Arkansas for you good people at home.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Hopefully we're zoomed in enough that you can tell this. So we'll say this a little bit loud. And then I got BYU and Purdue. Let's go Purdue again.
So chalk into the Elite Eight.
Chalk into the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
And I got Arizona coming out of the West. How about you? Let's
fantastic. All right, boys and girls, the West.
Yeah.
Probably one of the more interesting quadrants in my mind. Arizona, number 3 defense, number 6 rated offense, according to Kenneth Pomeroy, who you will hear me mention quite a bit here, college basketball expert who is putting out his rankings week over week. Because of that, I have to go with the Wildcats first and foremost. Now, Utah State.
I guessed for you.
Oh, yeah, thank you for doing so. Utah State is interesting. Very fast-paced offense. MJ Collins goes as they go. Ultimately, I think that they're going to have the offensive chops to be able to lead them over Kevin Willard and Villanova. And I like Kevin Willard as a head man a lot, but just don't feel like this Wildcat team is going to be able to get things done. Wisconsin and High Point. I know you like the SLU kids that are out there right now, the St. Louis kids, who are over at High Point, but I just think Wisconsin has been slept on all year. Lots of signature victories. Purdue, Illinois, to name a few. Give me the Badgers in the first round.
They looked good against Illinois in the tournament, the Big Ten tournament.
That they did. Yeah. And we maybe, if things go right, end up seeing that matchup way down the line. But, we got to see a lot of wins there. Arkansas, I think no question, has this one over Hawaii. When you just talk about Darius Acuff Jr., the way that he is able to lead this offense, I actually have this team going pretty far. Y'all are going to find out about that in a couple of seconds. All right, next matchup, BYU and Texas. A.J. DeBonsa could be the #1 overall pick for the Cougars. I think because of that, BYU ends up taking this first-round matchup.
Stars shine in March.
Yes, very much so. But overall, if it's a first overall pick, he might only win 1 or 2 games before the NBA comes calling. We'll find out. That being said, Gonzaga, Kennesaw State. I love the Kennesaw State story, but ultimately just think that Gonzaga is way too good. Mark Few does not lose opening round matchups up in the Pacific Northwest, or in this case, wherever their Western matchup will be. But I like Gonzaga there. Miami and Missouri, Corey and I are going to agree. I do think that Missouri, even though they haven't looked as sharp, they're still finding their edge right now. And I think T.O. Barrett has come onto his own. And because of that, I think that the Tigers are going to get it done here in St. Louis and poise themselves for a great round of 32 matchup against the Purdue Boilermakers. Look, Braden Smith, I mean, you talk about this, Trey Kaufman, Red, they just have a ton of impact players. That's how they were able to win the Big Ten and be one of the best offenses.
Hey, we're all the same so far.
Yeah,
let's see where it gets different.
That much, but it's going to get it's going to get hairy here, folks. Get ready for it. All right, Arizona, Utah State. I am going with the Wildcats in this one. Just feel like they have way too much offensive pop for Utah State's defense to be able to contain. The next matchup, Wisconsin. Now, you know, they post a top 10 defensive rating according to Ken Pomeroy right now. That's a big deal, folks. But Arkansas, a top 5 offense as a 4 seed. A 4 seed. Give me Darius Acuff and the Razorbacks to take down Wisconsin. Up next, BYU Gonzaga. I think that this is going to be Mark Few coming out again and putting together some great game plan to be able to limit him and Wright Scott III. Give me Gonzaga there.
First difference.
Yes, big time.
It took a while.
A little bit, but we got there. Mizzou and Purdue. Sorry, Tiger fans. Yeah, I'm going with Braden Smith. Just feel like he has far too much superstar impact in this matchup. He's going to be able to get them into the Sweet 16. Then, Sweet 16, give me the Razorbacks to upset Arizona.
I thought about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans.
I have one bracket that has this.
A lot of fans, I think, are thinking about this right now, and for very good reason. You talk about a team that's very well coached. John Calipari, absolutely legendary, maybe a top 5 coach ever in college basketball. Pit him up against Arizona, a high-impact team right now. I feel like this one, it can go either way, but I'm going with the Razorbacks.
Nobody's hotter than Arkansas.
No, that
Nobody's
much is
hotter.
true, especially when you're playing the SEC right now, which is not easy to do. Gonzaga and Purdue, like the Boilermakers here, I feel like they end up getting it done. This is a Braden Smith takeover type of game. And then give me Arkansas to go to the Final Four out there in the West. I think that they find a will and a big way to get this thing done. They have tons of depth all the way down. DJ Wagner, who at one point was the #1 high school basketball prospect in the country, he's like their 4th best player. Razorbacks into the Final Four. All right.
Let's move over to the East.
Let's do it now. Now I get to press some buttons. This is sick. I love it. Cool.
So this one's easy off the top.
Duke and Siena.
Duke and Siena. As much as I'd love to see a Duke 16 upset, it's not going to happen.
No.
Give me the Blue Devils in the first round. #1 overall seed, John Shire and the Boozer Boys. This next one, I've been flipping some coins on because I don't really know.
Okay.
I think it could go either way.
This is Ohio State TCU.
I've seen more experts pick TCU instead of Ohio State.
Sure.
And here's where I kind of throw my hands up and say, sure, that's fine with me. Give me TCU. Give me the Horned Frogs.
Horned Frogs.
Next up, 5 and 12, St. John's and Northern Iowa. Okay. I love picking a Missouri Valley team to win a first-round game.
Sure.
We get to see them here in St. Louis. You know, we kind of have a lot of local players that play on these Missouri Valley teams. But Rick Pitino in March, I got a really good feeling about him this year, specifically watching them win the Big East.
Okay.
I really like St. John's. Give me them in the first round. And
the Johnnies.
Maybe a little while longer here. We'll see. Kansas and Cal Baptist, it would bring me no greater pleasure than to see Kansas lose in the first round, but they're not going to do that to Cal Baptist. Give me the Jayhawks. Louisville and South Florida, trendy upset pick.
Yes.
And for even better reason now, because I believe Louisville is one of their best players going to be out in this game.
Indeed, yes.
Coming up. So, you know what? Give me the Bulls of South Florida. Let's go with an early upset right
The 11 seed there. That's a nice little upset pick.
You know, that's fun. I was getting too chalky. I had to pick a couple here and there. Michigan State, North Dakota. Give me Michigan State. It's Izzo's season in March here, and they could show up later in a very impactful way for me. We'll see about that. UCLA, UCF, another trendy kind of upset pick. 7-10, though.
Yeah.
It's not too different, not
Sure.
too much of an upset, but Give me UCLA and Mick Cronin. I like his press conferences where he gets mad at everybody, so let's get some more of those. Speaking of getting mad, Hurley at UConn and Furman here, the 15-2. Huskies, stumble in the Big East tournament at the end. They can't beat St. John's, but they're still UConn. They know what they're doing here. Give me the Huskies to get to the second round.
There we go, folks. On to the second round here in the East. Corey, you got Duke, TCU to start.
Still Duke. Let's go with I can't pick against them. They got a pretty nice setup, I think, in terms of this first weekend to not really maybe be tested a whole lot. That's going to change here coming up because in the next round, 5-4, St. John's is going to beat Kansas. Rick Pitino and Bill Self. That's going to be some great television.
Yes.
Can't wait for that matchup. So give me St. John's into the next round. South Florida and Michigan State. You know what? We're going to stick with the big coaches theme here, and Izzo's gonna beat South Florida, move on, and we're gonna have a stacked East region here in the Sweet 16 as far as coaches go for sure, because UConn and Dan Hurley are gonna beat UCLA, and we're gonna get Hurley, Izzo, Pitino, and Shire. I guess it's not quite as it's not Coach K anymore,
even
but still, he's on his way up. That's a pretty loaded East region. I think this might be the deepest region of anybody.
Very much so, which is crazy because Duke, the #1 overall seed, too, to end up in it.
Duke and St. John's here. This is tough for me in the Sweet 16 because I want to pick Pitino, but I know Duke has the better team. So I'm going to let my head win out here, and Duke's going to beat St. John's.
The Blue Devils on to the Elite Eight for Corey.
And we're going to get Michigan over UConn here. A UConn team not quite as strong as they may have been in recent years. Michigan State coming in a little bit hotter, I think. UConn, some questions. So I like Izzo versus Duke in the Elite Eight. And you know what? I'm going to call an audible here because I had been thinking Duke all the way until I just stepped out here. And we're going to take Michigan State into the Final Four as a 3 seed.
The hot hand.
Yeah.
Big time stuff. All right, so Corey thus far has Michigan State and Arizona. I got Arkansas out of the West. Let's go to the East. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about this opening round matchup. Duke, top 5 offensive and defensive rating. They're the #1 team in the nation for a very good reason. This next one, 8-9, Ohio State, TCU. I'm very interested in this matchup for one big reason. Bruce Thornton, who is the star for Ohio State, their all-time leading scorer in school history. I think that he goes out there, has a 25-point performance, and leads Ohio State to victory over the Horned Frogs. Up next, the Johnnies, Northern Iowa. Everyone loves the Johnnies, Corey. They really do. Rick Pitino, this team underperformed last year in March as well. Feel like there's a lot of vengeance. But I saw what Trey Thompson did here in St. Louis. Feel like Northern Iowa's got a little bit of pop to them. I think if they come out, shoot the ball effectively, him and Leon Bold, if they can do that, Northern Iowa is going to upset the Johnnies.
That's a big upset.
12/5 kind of happens almost every single year. This is my 12/5 pick, no doubt about it. Love Kansas against Cal Baptist. Just feel like they absolutely roll. Top 10 defensive rating this year on Ken Palm as well. Louisville and South Florida. You know, it's funny, Corey. A lot of people have South Florida, yourself included. But Louisville technically meets the parameters for teams that could win the national championship.
Yeah. What are they checked off?
Every national championship winner in the past 20 years has been top 35 defensive rating and top 25 offensive rating. That is where Louisville sits. I think that they get it done against a Bulls team that a lot of people are picking to win that opening round matchup. Give me Tom Izzo and Michigan State. Just don't feel like North Dakota is going to have any sort of way to contain the aggressive guard attack that they have out there. UCLA, really love that matchup in particular. I think that there's some really good stuff in particular. Donovan Dent has been a guy that time and time again they have relied upon and been able to depend upon. He gets the win for them here. And then UConn over Furman. I feel like Dan Hurley will explode if they lose that first round game.
He's probably going to explode even if they win. So.
That's a very good point. But at the same time, I'd rather see him in one piece as long as humanly possible. All right, second round, Duke, Ohio State. Give me the Blue Devils here. It just seems like the right thing. I mean, I know that these two schools could be powerhouses in their own regard, but Duke, I mean, they are the powerhouse in college basketball right now. I think Kansas will unfortunately end the nice story of Northern Iowa. When you take a look at the Jayhawks, just how well they are defensively, I think that that's going to be the exact thing that actually stifles Trey Thompson from that first game where I thought that he was going to be able to pull out the big win in and of itself. Louisville, Michigan State, just feel like Michigan State has got it here, right? I mean, Jeremy Fears Jr., a total dog, leading the offense, 15.5 points per game. he's going to have a similar performance in this game. And then UCLA and UConn, I'm going with the chalk again here. Feel like this team maybe not as deep as people thought. Alex Caravan, kind of a little bit of a regression year for him, but at the same token, the man is still great at being able to space the floor. I think UConn gets that win. Duke and Kansas, give me the Blue Devils to get it done in big way. And then over here, Michigan State and UConn. Corey, you took the Spartans here. I'm actually taking the Huskies.
Okay.
I think that Dan Hurley ends up making another Elite Eight, but that run is cut short by the Duke Blue Devils. Cam Boozer, my goodness. I mean, if this guy doesn't go top 3 in the NBA draft, I don't know what those franchises are doing.
Great matchups over there.
So we got Duke and Arkansas right now. So back we go to the blue bracket, a.k.a. Corey's
I really
bracket.
like that region over there.
Yeah,
that seems like the best game.
Super competitive.
All right, so we're going down to the Midwest here. Hopefully you can see it on the board here. Allie, who's running our stream, tell me if I ever step in the way. You can't see our picks over here. We're going to start off the top. Michigan, yeah, Michigan cruises into that next round because we have to talk about.
Oh,
I'm getting
Oh.
some notifications here. This one right here.
oh,
There we go. Live stream.
bingo.
All right, so we got Georgia and St. Louis, the 8 and 9. Frank Cusimano
boy.
in the building for this game in Buffalo. Listen, the Billikens certainly could have come into this tournament with a lot more hype,
Yes.
with a lot more enthusiasm, playing a lot better. They're not. They just aren't.
They're not.
It's not happening right now. They had to eke out a win against George Washington. Then they lose to Dayton once again in the A-10 tournament. It was kind of their year to win the A-10 tournament. They didn't do it. But still, first NCAA tournament appearance in 7 years, since 2019. There's a lot to love about this team. Robbie Avila was built to be one of these guys who becomes a star in March,
Yes.
and everybody falls in love with him. He's set up perfectly for that. We're going to get at least one SLU win. We have to. Georgia plays one of the fastest styles in the country.
Yes.
They have the most dunks in the country. Their pace of play could really cause some problems for SLU. But SLU had a top 10 defense in the country for a large part of the year, too. So
Yes.
hopefully they find that identity again. They're going to get at least a first-round win. Okay.
Boom.
5 and 12, Texas Tech and Akron. Thought for a second about this being a 12/5, and then I thought better of that. Texas Tech moving
Sure.
on. Alabama and Hofstra would love to pick against the Tide early, and they've got, they're going to be losing one of their best players after
Yeah.
he got arrested the other day, but that's going to be enough to beat Hofstra. Tennessee, and this game hasn't happened yet, so we don't know exactly who they're playing, Miami of Ohio
Yes.
or SMU yet. but
Correct.
I hope it's Miami of Ohio.
That would be exciting.
It's not going to matter, though, because Tennessee's moving on. Virginia and Wright State. Can't tell you I know anything about Wright State, so Virginia's moving on. Kentucky and Santa Clara here in St. Louis. That is an interesting game.
Yeah.
SLU Billiken fans have seen Santa Clara play. SLU faced them earlier this year. That was one of their best wins. I've watched a decent amount of Wildcats basketball lately, though. They played Mizzou. I watched them in the SEC tournament a little bit. The talent is there. There's
Sure.
no question about it. Mark Pope has been hearing it from Kentucky fans all season long because the standards there are so high. Big Blue Nation's going to flood St. Louis. If this was maybe somewhere else, I might pick the upset, but Kentucky's going to have a lot of fans in the building.
Sure.
We're picking them over Santa Clara. And then we're going to go Iowa State over Tennessee State from the OVC, although that would be a fun story. I don't think it's going to happen. All right.
Fantastic.
Michigan and St. Louis. It's a bad matchup for the Billikens.
It
I wish
is.
it wasn't. I wish I could pick them a little farther.
Yeah.
But I only picked Mizzou to win one game, and I think St. Louis is going to have the same thing.
All right.
Michigan's
Okay.
moving on.
We're at least giving them something here.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody's going to win a game here. Texas Tech and Alabama. That's a pretty fascinating game. I think that's a coin flip. I'm trying to remember what I had in some of my brackets here, and I can't really remember. Let's go with Alabama, even though they're going to be down their best player. I saw them just destroy Mizzou a couple of times over
Sure.
recent years. Nate Oates is an easy guy to hate on the other side if you're playing against him, but I'm sure they love him down there, and he is a good coach. So let's take Alabama over Texas Tech.
Okay.
Tennessee and Virginia. I've seen Tennessee more this year. We're going to go with the SEC bias and put them over Virginia. Kentucky and Iowa State. That could be a great game on Sunday here in St. Louis. Iowa State, I think, has one of the best defenses in the country, though.
Yes,
so we're
they
going to
do.
go with the Cyclones,
Big time.
making to the second weekend. All right. We got Michigan and Alabama in the Sweet 16. No, it's not football. We're playing basketball here, but we're going to go Michigan to win that game. And then Tennessee and Iowa State. We're going to go with the Cyclones again. Michigan
Wow.
and Iowa State would be a pretty fun matchup in the Elite Eight for
That
a
it
trip
would.
to the Final Four. I'm still kind of hand-wringing over this one, but I don't feel like I can put Michigan and Michigan State in my Final Four. That
Wow.
would be just too on the nose.
All
so
right.
We're going to go with Iowa State into the Final Four from the Midwest region.
Nice, fantastic. All right,
Yeah.
so 3, Michigan State, Arizona, Iowa State. We got a 1, 2, and a 3 seed in Corey's brackets.
A little bit of everything, a little love for everybody.
All right, y'all.
Zach's turn in the Midwest.
It might look a little similar over here. I'm just going to spoil it for you right now. Give me Big Blue to take things down in round 1.
Yep.
Yaxel Landenbro, this guy is fantastic. He should be an NBA lottery pick as well. I think that he's going to lead Michigan to a decisive victory. Georgia and St. Louis.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, we're going to have to kick Zach out of town, I feel like here.
No. Look, I love it, but we can't talk about this team and talk about just how they have started ice cold in basically every single game. And I think if they do that here, it just gives an opportunity for Jeremiah Wilkinson and this Bulldog offense to run all over SLU. And as great as they've been at battling back from deficits, I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs here.
That's a good point.
I'm
I mean,
very,
these slow
very sorry to
starts-
say it. I think if it was, quite frankly, any other 8 matchup, especially if it was Clemson, who's an 8 seed in this tournament, I would have picked SLU. But Georgia, I just think they play with such great pace, and if they do it early, it's going to be bad news.
I mean,
for
they've
the
been
Billikens.
getting off to slow starts against teams in the A10. If
Correct.
they get off to a slow start against like the fastest team in the country,
Yeah.
then you're really in trouble. At those first, 5 to 8 minutes, we might learn quite a bit.
I'm just thinking about that Rhode Island loss, and I know you can't define one team by one game, but man, is
Yeah.
that just a sore thumb on the resume that is very, very close to this tournament. Georgia there. Texas Tech and Akron. Akron's a great story, but give me Texas Tech. Top 15 offensive rating in the nation. They've lost 3 straight entering the NCAA in the tournament. But remember, folks, this team beat Iowa State, and that's a 2 seed. So give me Texas Tech. Up next, Alabama and Hofstra. It's got to be Bama here. I know that for a litany of reasons, maybe some injuries, maybe that suspension for one of their great players, they're just too fast offensively, like them to win there. Then we got Tennessee and then Miami, Ohio, SMU. I don't care who wins that game this evening. I am going with the Tennessee Volunteers as well. Jacoby Gillespie, probably one of the top guards in the tournament that you have not heard about. He had 21 points against Vanderbilt. Get ready for him. Then below that, Virginia and Wright State. Ryan Odom is made for the moment, the head coach of Virginia. Remember, kiddos, he led UMBC to beat Virginia, the first 16 seed to ever beat a 1 seed. I think that he's got this tournament down lock and is going to lead Virginia into a nice little run here. Then we go below, Kentucky and Santa Clara. I'm going with Kentucky. Otega Oweh averaging about 19 points a game. His brother Odafe just signed a $100 million deal to play linebacker and defensive end for the Washington Commanders. So this is a family of athletes. Think that he goes for 20 to 25 points in the opening round. Then we got Iowa State and Tennessee State. Yeah, give me Taman Lipsey, probably one of the best floor generals in all of college basketball thus far. All right, Michigan, Georgia, give me the Big Blue. They just have too many weapons down low. Bulldogs are not going to be able to contain that. Texas Tech, Alabama. I think that the Red Raiders do it here, folks. I think that they end up pulling off the upset. The Nate Oates magic runs out. We get that 1 versus 5 matchup. Up next, Virginia, Tennessee. Cavaliers moving past a Tennessee team that has not been able to close out games. That's something that Virginia does extremely well. Kentucky, Iowa State. Once again, I'm going to go back to the Cyclones here. I mean, I just feel like they run a style of defense that cannot be solved. I think that they are going to have this Kentucky team in an absolute bind. Then Michigan, Texas Tech, give me the Big Blue to move on to another Elite 8. And then Virginia, Iowa State, I also have Iowa State. And then Corey, we're twins here, baby.
Okay.
I'm going with the 2 seed, the Iowa State
Oh, nice.
Cyclones,
We got
a
one the
top
same.
5 defensive rating in the country this year. They are some of the best Cyclones in the Final Four.
All right, you got Big 12 represented, you got the
Yes.
ACC, you got SEC, a little bit
Sure.
of everybody. I think we're both spreading the love a little bit here. And let's
That
see
we
if
are.
that continues down in the South region.
South region, Florida,
right.
and then Prairie View A&M potentially.
Listen, I saw Mizzou beat Florida this year, and it was quite impressive on the road at Florida. But the Gators aren't losing the first round.
No,
Give me
they are
Florida.
not.
Give me Florida, the defending champs. All right.
Florida with the win.
Clemson and Iowa. I have no idea, and it seems like nobody else does either. These 8-9 games really are coin flips.
They are.
Let's go Clemson.
You just looked away.
Just because.
Blind choice there, kiddos.
That's because our producer Allie said Iowa in my ear, so I went with Clemson.
There we
Okay.
go.
Vanderbilt, McNeese State. Vandy, really interesting team this year. A couple times you think, oh man, they're going to run away and finish the year at the top of the top of the ladder, and then they have a couple stumbles along the way. Watch them in the SEC tournament fall short, but they're not going to fall short in the first round. Give me Vanderbilt. That 5-12. I don't know. Did I pick any 5 over 12s? I don't think I did.
That's okay.
That's okay. Listen, it was
you're
a little
sticking to your gut.
It was a little chalky this year. I usually pick too many upsets, and I'm mad at myself, so we're going to stay chalky. This is going to be some history here in the next round, or next game. Nebraska and Troy. Nebraska ball has never won an NCAA tournament game. Can you believe that?
Ever.
That's insane. They're going to
Unbelievable.
win at least one because they're going to beat Troy in the first round here. And they might win a couple more. North Carolina and VCU. Okay, this is an interesting game because I saw VCU play a couple times this year playing SLU.
Sure.
I was never too impressed, but I like to pick A-10 teams. I don't always usually get to pick St. Louis because they don't make it every year.
Yeah.
I get to pick VCU an awful lot because they make it almost every year.
Yes.
You get to play a North Carolina team without their best player. I was just talking to a UNC fan, our photographer, Andy Broadway, who works here. What do you think about him? Oh, no. So that's kind of what I needed to hear. But I think they get one. I think they beat VCU. North Carolina.
Tar Heels.
North Carolina, Caleb Wilson, right?
Correct.
Caleb Wilson's
Yes.
their star player who's going to be out, so that's going to be a big loss. Now we get to Illinois, our third and final regional team we get to talk about. And as much as I tease my Illini friends about this is Illinois' year to lose to an Ivy League school like Mizzou lost to Princeton, Illinois is not going to lose to Penn. And if the Illini reach their potential and what we saw them earlier this year, there are very few teams in this entire slate that can beat them. They are some of the most talent of any team on here. They could make a run, and I know a lot of folks who would be very happy about that. All right, St. Mary's, Texas A&M, another coin flip game, and I decided to go with the SEC team here. Give me Texas A&M. Although the Gales from St. Mary's are kind of there every year,
Sure.
and we're maybe even better than Gonzaga at times this year out west, which is usually not the case, so I would not be surprised if your team won that. Then give me Houston over the Vandals of Idaho down there in the last one.
Bang.
All right.
Whole lot of chalk here for Corey.
A lot of chalky. Florida and Clemson. Florida's not getting upset there. We're going Florida. No upset yet.
Gators.
Vanderbilt and Nebraska. I almost went Nebraska, but I kind of want an SEC matchup in the Sweet 16. So Florida and Vandy.
Commodores.
Illinois, North Carolina, rematch of the Final Four here in St. Louis all those years ago. We're going to go with the Illini over North Carolina. If the Tar Heels were fully healthy, I might think about that again. But Illinois' got too much talent. Again, like our other two regional teams we talked about, not coming into this exactly how they'd want to. A little bit back of, peaking at the right time and all that. But the talent's there. Maybe they got some time off. Hopefully they can figure it out.
Sure.
A&M and Houston, that's a fun all-Texas matchup there. But we're going to go with the Houston Cougars.
Bang.
To move on. And that's a pretty stacked Sweet 16, except for Vandy there. This whole area right here is kind of an easy progression if somebody wants to make it in there. But,
could be.
Florida's going to beat Vanderbilt in Sweet 16 to go to the Elite Eight.
Bang.
Their road is not terribly hard from what I'm seeing right here. Illinois and Houston, man, this is a tough call.
It is.
This could be one of the best games of the tournament if it ends up these two teams playing each other. Now, talent-wise, I want to pick Illinois, and, I've watched a lot of Illinois basketball. Keaton Wagler is going to be one of the most dynamic players in this entire tournament before he heads off to the NBA, and they've got a bunch of other weapons like the Ivasic brothers and Mirkovic and some guys who have been there for a long time like Kylan Boswell and Ben Hummerkaus. I say all that to pick Houston to go and face Florida in the next round.
Lots of praise for the Illini regardless, though.
That's a great matchup. Illinois certainly could go on a run longer than what I have them, but that's where I have the not a Cinderella story, they're a 3 seed. That's where I have the story ending.
Your Final Four team here, Corey. Florida or Houston?
It's tough. I don't have an SEC team in here, and I have been talking up the SEC a whole bunch.
Sure.
In my rough draft, I picked Houston, but I think I'm going to call an audible, and we're going to send Florida to the Final Four here.
Bang. There we go.
A little bit of a balance. We got a balanced Final Four here, a little bit of everybody. Defending champs making a run again. But we'll see if they're in that final game.
So for those playing along at home right now, Corey's Final Four, 2 1 seeds, Arizona and Florida, got the 2 seed represented by Iowa State, and then Michigan State up here in the East region.
I feel okay about it.
Yeah, I feel like you should.
Great. I feel okay.
100%.
Who do you got? Let's see.
All right, we'll just skip everything on the Gators for now, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. They're going to win that matchup. Clemson and Iowa. I actually really like Iowa here. They only lost to Michigan by 3 points, kiddos, and I think for that reason, they're going to be able to get this game.
Now listen here, I should have mentioned this, and maybe I should have picked Iowa, but I watched Bennett Sturts just destroy the Missouri Tigers at Drake last year in the first round and crush everybody there. He could very easily do that again.
20 points a game, one of the best shot makers in all of college basketball thus far. Be on the lookout. Vanderbilt and McNeese, I don't feel like the aura is there with that one guy who carries around the speaker. Forget what his name is. I think Amir or something of the sort. Sorry, Amir, you're going home early again, my friend. It didn't work out for McNeese last year. It's not going to work out in the first round this year. Nebraska and Troy, I'm constantly amazed by the fact that they haven't won an NCAA game. It's even more amazing to think that they won't this year simply because they are a top 10 defense in the country on Ken Pomeroy's rankings. Actually, the only 4 seed to be a top 10 defensive rated team. Give me the Cornhuskers.
Oh, I thought you were setting it up.
I know, I scared everybody there for a second. North Carolina and VCU, you talked about the loss of Caleb and how bad it's going to be for North Carolina, but still pick them. I'm going the opposite direction. Feel like VCU is just nice and chippy. Talk about some of these lesser conferences being able to get over on a Power 5. This is a matchup where I think that could happen. Sorry, Penn, I know, a luxurious university in Philadelphia, but it's not going to happen. The Illini, Keaton Wagler, are going to go for 30 points in that game, in my opinion, en route to a 20-point win. Then St. Mary's, Texas A&M. I feel like I do a disservice here not picking the Gales simply because they are a top 15 defensive rating team, and as you can tell, I kind of like that a little bit. But I am going with a Texas A&M team that has been a bit more in form as of lately. Gig 'em and get ready. Houston, Idaho. We're not even going to spend any time talking about this. The Cougars just have an absolutely fantastic offense. They win. Florida and Iowa, give me the defending champs to move on to the Sweet 16. Vanderbilt and Nebraska. I'm going Cornhuskers. Once again, I feel like that they have the goods to be able to take down the Commodores, which is a 2-guard offense over there that runs extremely well in transition. But you know what's not good for a team that does well in transition? A team that's top 10 in defensive rating, especially when it comes to parking the bus. Nebraska gets the win. Illinois over VCU. Feel like there's just far too many scoring options, as Corey talked about. Merkovich, Wagler, again, they just have way too many keys to the vehicle. Then Houston, Texas A&M, I got the chalk once more. The Cougars moving on. Then Nebraska and Florida. Nebraska wins not 1, not 2, but 3 NCAA tournament games and takes down the defending champs in the Sweet 16 in massive fashion. Illinois is going to upset Houston, kiddos. I am ready for it. I hope you are ready for it as well. Kingston Flemings, I know I haven't really shown him any love thus far, but a guy that could be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft this year. I think that his season, unfortunately, ends right there. Then Nebraska and Illinois, a game that we've seen multiple times this year, split the series 1-1, I believe. I am going with Illinois to get the best 2 out of 3 and make the Final Four. My final pick in there, the 1 seed Duke, 4 seed Arkansas, Iowa State, and Illinois are my Final 4.
How about that? Some love for the Illini.
There we go.
I'll finish this out
Let's do it.
All right, let's start over here. Arizona and Iowa State. I cannot tell you how many times I've picked Arizona to win a national championship over the years. I do it all the time.
Sure.
I get excited. I watch them play like once or twice. This is an exciting team. They're going to make a run. They have to do it. And they always let me down, and I always lose my bracket pool.
Yes.
But I feel like the one year that I don't pick them to do it, they're going to do it. So we're going to pick Arizona to play in the national championship. And, you know, this is mostly just for the sake of shaking it up. I don't think Florida's going to get back to the national championship. I think they're going to lose to Tom Izzo and Michigan State. Michigan State and Arizona, that's a pretty fun national championship, I think.
Very much so.
And just because I don't want to be wrong and see them win and didn't pick them.
Wildcats.
We're going with Arizona for the national championship. How long has it been? It's been so long since a team from like the western part of the country
over 20
won
years.
A national championship. You see the split right down the center of the United States and all the teams that have won and nobody in the West has won. How is this possible? I think it ends this year. Let's give it to Arizona.
I believe.
I don't feel great about it, but it's what I got, so that's what we're going with.
I believe the 2 teams that are right on that line that Corey is talking about is Kansas and Baylor. Otherwise, every other team has been an East Coast member for the most part. Okay, Duke and Illinois.
Oof.
I will disappoint every single Illini fan in taking the #1 overall seed. Just so many weapons. I think they're so well coached, and I think overall Illinois has had the opportunity to take down some of these powerhouse teams late in the game, and they've blown that opportunity time and time again. Duke gets it done to make it back to the national championship once again. And give me the Iowa State Cyclones to defeat Arkansas and move there. Again, Tamin Lipsey, I just think so much of this young man and feel like he's got a real good shot to end up being one of the most valuable players in this entire tournament. That being said, I do think the most valuable player in the entire tournament is arguably the best rebounder in college basketball and a guy who can also score the rock extremely well. Cameron Boozer, the Duke Blue Devils are my 2026 champions. So there you have it, kiddos.
Not bad.
2 brackets, 2 different champions. Pretty good stuff there, Corey.
Not bad. You know, we mixed it up. We got
Yes.
Iowa State, but then we got a bunch of other teams represented that folks think could go on a run.
Sure.
I like your Arkansas pick a lot. I almost did it myself. I like your Duke pick a lot. I almost did that myself. Listen, this could very well happen.
Yes.
And folks,
Illinois to the Final
folks
Four.
know I've got a piece of paper in my house that says I graduated from a zoo. But contrary to that, I like watching the Illini. I love rooting for the Illini. Very well could make a run. They've got the talent to compete with anybody here.
Certainly, yeah. And I think overall, we didn't pick a ton of upsets or runs to the Sweet 16 or anything like that. I think if there's any team that could maybe
chalky.
Yeah, I would say so. I think if there's any team that could maybe do that, maybe a UCLA upset over UConn, that's something that strikes me. Anything, Corey, that you see on your side?
Looks like I got BYU going.
Yes.
You know, a decent ways. I guess I'm buying into the whole AJ stock there out
Sure.
with the Cougars. You know, the more I look at this, the more I don't like it. Honestly, that's just kind of how it goes. It's usually in the garbage can after a couple days, but that's the fun of this. You
Sure.
know, there is no better sports day than the first couple of days of the NCAA tournament.
I would agree. Apparently, by the way, workplace productivity super low on that Thursday and Friday. So, you know, not that we're trying to manifest any of that for your office, but hey, it could happen.
Okay, so if any of these are really right, we're going to come back and do an extra show saying how right we were. And if they're not, you're never going to hear about it again. But thanks for spending some time with us. That's Zach. I'm Corey. Good luck to you and all of your brackets.